Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here are your hosts, Joe Kuzma and Brian E. Roach.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast presented by Under Armour. For more information on great deals that you could get from Under Armour, visit steelcityunderground.com/UA. I am your host today, Joe Kuzma. I am also joined by, or seconded by, my co-host, Brian E. Roach. Brian, how's it going?
It's a lovely day, as always. It's beautiful and crisp and cold, and it's a Victory Tuesday.
Yes, a Victory Tuesday. I said it's a victory holiday. Wow, I don't know where to start with some of this. I guess, you know what, we kind of, since we recorded ahead of the holidays, first of all, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to everyone, season's greetings, whatever. I almost wanted to say whatever tickles your pickle. I don't know if that works with the PG type show here, but whatever floats your boat, I guess, is
there you go.
A little better for those of us who don't care for pickles. See, I'm the host who doesn't like pickles, so we could put that there.
That's fine. I'm along. I can go with that, except I really kind of like a nice dill slice on my burger.
Nah, I'm not a pickle guy. I'm going to tell you one other thing, since we got way off track already. You could tell it's been a long holiday season for me already, and it's just going to get longer through the week. But we wanted to come to you with a little bit of Steelers talk. If it's a little noisy, it's because my little girl's running around as I record here at home today. I got a couple days with myself and just the kid, and she's usually pretty quiet when I do have to record from here, so we'll cross my fingers. But speaking of her and speaking of pickles, that's the name that's what she named her elf on the shelf, Pickles. I kid you not, true story. So that's why Pickles was on the brain. Well, Pickles is gone now, back to the North Pole, and we'll report back from Santa next year and see if she's if the little one's naughty or nice. But we had another holiday that was here. It had nothing to do with pickles, whether it's the kind you eat or the elf that mysteriously shows up in different rooms every day through the Christmas season. We skipped over Festivus. And Festivus, for Seinfeld fans, it's a holiday for the rest of us, and it begins with the airing of grievances. And
yes,
I have some grievances that I did not get to air, and I'm going to air them, a belated Festivus to everyone here. People are probably like, wow, this is, if you're bored at work or wherever and you're listening to this, I hope it's at least somewhat entertaining for you. But I do have some legitimate grievances. The first one is Saturday's practice. We were recording it ahead of this, and of course, there was the whole Cam Sutton running with the ones thing, and I mentioned something about this. I mentioned it, actually. I thought he might get in the game, maybe spell Joe Hayden. I never really thought kind of this. Well, there's another grievance that's going to come up in a second, because the other surprise on Saturday. But I thought Cam Sutton, I thought this was more of a depth type play, something that they're looking to do in case Artie Burns were to get hurt. And there's some people who are out there, or out of their mind, and actually thought Artie Burns would get benched. What happened, if you didn't hear, was Cam Sutton was running with the first team, with the starters, on Saturday's practice ahead of yesterday's game. And a lot of people took that as Artie Burns was going to be benched, which was not the case.
Yes, no, not at all. It was nice that Cam Sutton got those reps. I think I have been fairly vocal that I don't think Artie has grown as much as he should have this year, but that doesn't mean he's bad. It just means I expected more growth. I know there was that lovely PFF stat about, the fact that in the position Artie has been playing, the Steelers have given up the least amount of fantasy points at that position. And there's even though everybody, I mean, the beat writers, everybody was speculating, oh, Cam Sutton is already getting benched. I don't think I ever bought that because it's just nice to get another guy ready, in the event that you need him. They were, when Hayden went down, they clearly weren't ready. So it's nice to get that guy some reps in practice. Cam Sutton has shown he deserves to get some extra reps. And Artie's gotten those reps all year. He was fine. And he played a solid game. Or not the Titans, the Texans. I've got Titans on the brand because I want them to beat the Jags for no better reason than I just want them to beat the Jags in the upcoming week. But, it was clear and evident that having Joe Hayden back was a huge help. He was on DeAndre Hopkins pretty much the whole game, and that allowed Artie to manage the second receiver, and he did a great job. There's no question. So I think it was a lot of speculation and hubbub over nothing.
Absolutely, and that statistic came from Mike Clay, who is an ESPN NFL fantasy guru of sorts, and what he had said is that Artie Burns lined up at right corner on the interception play, which was a fantastic. You want to talk about Mike Tirico had his head firmly planted in between his legs and up his behind, talking about that DeAndre Hopkins catch yesterday. Derailing from Artie for just a second, because I think Artie's catch was way better than that, because it was deflected. He's a defender. He's not expecting to catch the ball in the first place. And he maintains possession and his inbounds and gets his butt down and keeps his feet in the boundary. Or you have DeAndre Hopkins, who does something that Antonio Brown has done like 40 times in his career already. It's like, really? I understand. And there's some people, here's an airing of grievance here. There were some people who said that the game was boring. Not very exciting. Game was boring. This is the first game. I got a problem with you people. I'm going to let you know it. I didn't have any anxiety. They took care of business. This is, I argue with people about Mike Tomlin being a good coach all the time. Oh, they don't take care of business when they need to. They don't beat the teams that they're supposed to. And let's see what they do with the Texans. Oh, it'll probably be a field goal, which was in our Madden simulation, by the way. That couldn't be any more sickening after getting a game stolen from you. Oh, I got another grievance, too. We got that, too. I'm going to mark this down. I don't have a check mark here. But Artie Burns, I thought, we were talking about this heading into and even reviewing the Patriots game from last week, and I said I think he gets a raw deal sometimes. You're going to have pass interference things. When I mentioned Gronk, I said, you know what, you could limit what those players do, but some players are just bigger in the game. It's Antonio Brown's that way. Ben can be that way at times. Le'Veon Bell is definitely that way. DeAndre Hopkins, he made 2 big plays over Hayden, and Hayden was certainly, there was nothing wrong with his coverage. The thing that was wrong was Mike Tirico running his mouth after, but he did acknowledge, I think after the commercial break, I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, he was all over Hayden. He had a handful of his jersey, his shoulder pads. Like, he didn't let the guy go. It was like he was his blankie or something, his binky. And okay, yeah, he makes a good catch. He gets his feet down, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but that's DeAndre Hopkins, all right? You kind of come to expect maybe something from a player of his level. But yeah, the Artie Burns thing, the interception was a far better catch, and I have more grievances, Brian, but I'll kick it over to you here for a second and see if you've got a couple.
I have one, and it may even be one of yours, because I did that article about the image problem in the NFL, and I spent the week constantly reviewing the Jesse James catch in my head, in my dreams, on my computer, wherever else I could. And I had finally felt like I was ready to move on. And then I watched the Patriots and the Bills.
Yeah, as did I.
And the specter of Riveron once again rose up, touchdown for no apparent reason, as the Bills were ready to go in towards the half, take the lead, score a touchdown. But no, it's going to be reviewed, even though clearly there is absolutely no way to tell whether is down on that play or not. Benjamin, who is making the catch, there's just no way to tell. And yet, made and the call is overturned. And all of the flashback and angst and anger about the Jesse James catch comes rushing back. Now the fourth catch, Al Riveron is a buffoon. The refs suck. They stink. The replay officials are part of the officiating kingdom. That's why they all stink. My grievance is I want to take my Festivus pole and wrap it around his neck.
Oh, well, here, just to give some context, okay, if the Buffalo Bills were fighting for their postseason lives, they had to win a game up in New England on Sunday. And obviously that was of interest to us Steelers fans. And this was the national TV game, unless you were, I'm in Northeast Ohio, but I was in Western Pennsylvania on Sunday visiting family. So we got the national game but at home it was the Browns. And there was nobody there at Soldier Field to watch the Bears and Browns. That's not a grievance. I could care less. But we're watching this game with the Patriots and the Bills are going toe to toe, mano a mano with the Patriots up until the end of the half. They even had a pick six on Brady, and Tyrod Taylor, who by no means is a consistent, I'd say he's an average NFL quarterback, and he makes this great pass. What am I thinking of? In the corner, thinking post route, but the post comes in, Kelvin Benjamin just comes down, both feet down, touchdown, called on the field, looks amazing. You're watching the replay, and once again, it takes them 5 hours, and them being Al Riveron, who is the senior VP of officiating, which basically means he is in charge of the referees in the NFL, and he is in charge of the replay command center, and he runs it with 2 other gentlemen there, and you shouldn't even know what or who Al Riveron is. If they're doing their job correctly, You should never hear his name. It should just be in passing. And here you have, before this game's even over, I think the NFL operations Twitter had already given whatever BS explanation. I could give you the explanation. Like I said, I have a problem with you people now. You people would be the Patriots and the officiating. The image, it isn't even an image thing. It is a straight-up perception now that when in Week 3, in the final seconds of the game in New England, back when the Texans had Deshaun Watson and not crappy TJ Yates that the Steelers saw yesterday, and they were an offensive juggernaut, and I think they still had JJ Watt at that point too, so they were also pretty heavy-handed defensively, and Tom Brady throws this pass about 20-30 yards down the field, and Brandon Cooks catches it in the corner of the end zone, both feet down, but as he comes down, his arms land, the ball squeaks out to his belly, and it actually touches the ground from what it looks like there. And they award a touchdown on this play. So we've beaten this dead horse kind of with Jesse James already. We just talked about Kelvin Benjamin. That's 3. And then there was Austin Seferian-Jenkins, a tight end for the Jets, where the Patriots win by 7. Seferian-Jenkins reaches for the pylon. The ball kind of comes loose. It's another one of those things where he crossed the plane of the goal line. Should have been a touchdown. Instead, they said it was a fumble, and since it went out of bounds, they somehow gave the Patriots the ball, took the points off the board for the Jets, and the Patriots win that game too. I got people in my family that I visit during the holidays, and you try and be nice and congenial, and especially sympathetic since they're Cleveland Browns fans, okay? They are just miserable people by nature because they have nothing to be happy or excited about. It was like ESPN come out and said the Browns secure the first pick overall in the draft, as though it's some accomplishment that it was difficult for them to do this, that they had to work on it. That maybe Hugh Jackson could hang his hat on that with his 1-30 record, about to be 1-31. This is just, the perception now is that the Patriots get every single questionable, controversial call in their favor I have the Festivus poll here, and I am an angry man. This isn't going to end until you pin me, Brian.
I'm going to try and stop and pin you because I don't want to stop you. I'm ready to take my Festivus poll. We can take your Festivus poll. We can head down to New York City, find the league offices, find Al Riveron, and beat him into submission with our Festivus polls. And anybody else in the nation who wants to join us, you're welcome to come along. It's beyond the pale. It's just image. It's a perception, and that's dangerous. It's dangerous for the league to look like it has a bias. People were tweeting out about the fact that Bell's Twitter page its banner was the Steelers Patriots interception. This week it's Gronk. They clearly appear to have a bias. I just can't fathom how a team can go how many ever quarters they had and only end up with 4 penalties. They don't play that clean. If you review that tape, it's holding in the end zone on the interception. There was holding on the Benjamin play. There's just obvious, missed penalty calls, bad overturns. It's beyond the pale. I think it's a grievance throughout. And listen, here's the thing. My brother, who I've mentioned before in Ohio, is a Bengals fan. And unfortunately, that's probably because he was dropped on his head as a child or something like that. I don't really know. But he's a Bengals fan. And I talked to him yesterday because, it's Christmas, family, all that stuff. You have to talk to everybody, even if they are Bengals fans. And I kid him because we both commiserate over our Buckeye love and we don't talk about the NFL. But I decided if there was a more oppositely biased individual, I didn't know him, someone who hates the Steelers and hopes all goes against them. And the first thing he said to me was, that was BS. They got robbed.
Oh, yeah. My uncle, who's a Cleveland fan, and he actually showed up with duct tape over he had a hoodie with the Cleveland Browns logo on it, and he had duct tape over it. It's like almost like the equivalent of wearing the brown bag over your head. But yeah. The perception thing is crazy, and I don't mean to belabor on this because there is a lot of good things to talk about in a 34-6 Steelers victory over the Houston Texans. But the final, I don't really have a grievance, but a lot of people had a grievance on Saturday when the Steelers released James Harrison. I think we'd be remiss to not at least not bring it up. I had a feeling that maybe this is here's the thing, folks. It takes 2 to tango, okay? You have an employee and an employer. And I'm sure many of you have been in a position where you have quit jobs or given notice or walked away for whatever reason. Could be mutual, could be you got a better job, could be you just want to do something different on a certain day that you might have to work. I don't know. So I think this is what the James Harrison thing came down to. It was kind of weird because he showed up on the injury report earlier in the week. I think it said illness or something. I thought it was just one of these veteran things, and he hasn't been playing, and a lot of people were like, oh, you did it wrong, and everybody was shocked. I don't think anybody thought that when Marcus Gilbert was coming off of the suspension list that James Harrison was going to be the guy. Now, we internally talked about this, I think, me, you, Zach, Terry, Zach Meckler, to be more specific, Eric. We were all discussing about why not somebody like Dan McCullers, who's been inactive for several games, and he plays special teams. I think that's one big thing. You can't get rid of Justin Hunter, who's like the bottom wide receiver who got his first touchdown too with a really great catch. Mike Tirico. Mike Tirico's a great. Actually, I'll give it to him. Mike Tirico, with what he was working with, he had Kurt Warner with him, who couldn't figure out that Antonio Bryant doesn't play for the Steelers, nor was Antonio Brown on the field for that game yesterday. So you're only as good as what you got to work with. So okay, I heard that. I heard that over on your end. So
wasn't me. It was somebody else. else. Somebody else made that snide remark.
Yeah, but since Antonio Brown, I said that on purpose, isn't healthy right now, they need that extra wide receiver spot with Hunter. So Hunter wasn't the odd man out. McCullers maybe could have been the odd man out. There's no way they're getting rid of any linebackers right now. They're so thin at the linebacker position. Inside linebacker, folks. James Harrison cannot play inside linebacker. Therefore, all of these outside linebackers they have are actually, they're a luxury. They have 5 guys, and they're really only playing 2 of them, Bud Dupree and TJ Watt. And the way they utilize them against the Patriots, they were only on the field about 60-some% of the time to begin with. So when you have Anthony Chickillo and Arthur Moats, and they were moving even Moats inside, and they tried that experiment that didn't work out, and you have Chickillo, and those guys all play special teams as well. James Harrison, where does he fit into this, especially when he's grumbling about playing time or saying, well, I wouldn't have signed, and I just think to myself, you probably wouldn't be on a roster at all, maybe. And this could be a simple, hey, let the guy go celebrate Christmas with his family. Maybe we'll bring him back in a week or 2. He's definitely not a practice squad eligible player, but he's another guy that you could probably dial on the phone and break the glass in case of emergency should disaster strike. They may make another roster move here in the future and bring him back. I don't know. I don't know how amicable it was. We didn't hear anything from Harrison. We have yet to hear from Mike Tomlin. So I don't know. I don't know if it'll come up. I think people were making a lot of assumptions that it was a really crappy thing right before Christmas, and how can you do that and be grateful to the all-time sacks leader on the franchise, blah, blah, blah. I don't think it was any of that. I think it was just, hey, they sat down, they talked, and this was the best way to go about it.
Yeah, let's flip side of it. James got to spend Christmas morning with his boys at home. That, as opposed to traveling to Houston to sit on the sidelines in a game he wasn't going to play in. There is no greater fan or supporter of Uncle James than I, as you know, having met him several times, and I just have always been a huge James Harrison fan. But the bottom line of things, and the nation needs to get their heads wrapped around this, is James is not suited for the way that the outside linebacker position is currently being used in the Steelers defense. They drop back more than they rush. We're getting pressure from our linemen. Cam Hayward, 2 sacks yesterday, takes him up to 12 for the season. That's where our pressure is coming, is from the down line. It is not as nearly as much coming from our outside linebacker position. And because they're dropping back and passing so much, our coverage so much, that's not something that James Harrison can do anymore. He is simply, I hate to use the term one-trick pony with Debo, but he's a pass rush specialist. And it's pretty clear, considering that he was not claimed on waivers, that nobody else sees him fitting into their scheme either, especially considering, we're 1 week removed from the playoffs. I don't think they will bring him back. I think what will happen is if they have an injury, then they'll bring him back.
Yeah, that makes sense. Mm-hmm.
But other than that, I think, and I have the minor grievance, because I am such a big James Harrison fan, of not really liking the way it was played out. But look, you got to, as you said, there's 2 sides to every story, and as the season wore on, Harrison was very, very, very good about keeping his mouth shut about any frustrations he had for most of the season, and then he let it out. And that is not the kind of locker room, dynamic that you need. People are talking about how great of a leader he is. James has always been a leader by action, not by voice. And he's not a vocal leader in the locker room. And when he decides to be vocal in a negative way, that is going to be problematic. I think he has a great relationship with Tomlin. I think he always has. So, there was a quote from his agent that said this was an amicable resolution, that there was no animosity. But, it's possible. Everybody's very hopeful that, now that he's passed through waivers, they're going to bring him back. I just don't expect it unless there's an injury that opens up a roster spot. But I do think it's unfortunate the way it was handled. I think as the all-time sack leader, former defensive player of the year, edge Hall of Fame guy, it could have been handled better.
And I'm in agreement with you there, Brian. You gave me another grievance. We may never get to talk about this Texans game, but my other is people were talking about, oh, well, the Patriots are going to pick up James Harrison and watch what they do with him, as though, Bill Belichick has some golden Midas touch that just turns everything to gold. Because, that worked so well when they traded for Coney Ealy earlier this season. So, and I'm sick of hearing even the guys on TV, fools like Rex Ryan, for example, who had no idea who Mike Hilton is. Mike Hilton is a reason why James Harrison's not on the field. They blitz Mike Hilton. You saw him have a career day with 3 sacks. There's only 2 other DBs, I think, that have had a 3-sack game like that. That was Carnell Lake and Troy Polamalu. Both GOATs, by the way, the greatest of all time. And they bring the corner blitz, Butler does often, and you see what Cam Hayward does. So enough of that. Just, with the James Harrison thing. The guys on TV, the analysts like Rex Ryan or Randy Moss, and these guys that are talking, oh, well, there's going to be a rematch in Foxborough. I said, you realize that the Patriots do, this is my grievance, they have to win a game. They have a bye, but they still have to play the divisional round. They have to win a game to get to the AFC Championship game. Regardless of Alberto Riveron in the command center there with replay, they're not gifted this. And the way it's shaking out right now, it looks like 2 of their potential opponents could be the Kansas City Chiefs, who beat them in the opener when they were celebrating and raising their banner and everything else, beat them in Foxborough. I get sick of hearing, oh, well, this goes through Foxborough. They still have to play the games. Believe it or not, the Baltimore Ravens is the other team I think that defensively would match up and pressure Brady. They create a ton of turnovers. Their takeaway number is ridiculous this year. I think their offense is kind of garbage, but if you look at the Patriots' defense, it's not too much better either. And there's a history of Baltimore going into Foxborough and winning there as well. So I'm sick of people thinking that the Patriots are just going to walk into the AFC Championship game, and for that matter, the Steelers as well. It just sounds ridiculous to feel. I could see the Patriots fans feeling entitled to that, since they pretty much do. Just, 5 years in a row they've been in that title game, but they haven't come out of it every year, even when they go to that title game. So that's my grievance on that. Getting to the Steelers and Texans, Cam Hayward, 2 sacks, big day, up to 12 now. Just amazing. Not even considered for the Pro Bowl. Not that it matters, because it's a fake game and none of these guys are going to play in it anyways. And you could only give so many Steelers the nod anyways. Officially 8, and then that made it in, including Shazier, who obviously may not play a down of football ever again. But that was a nice honor to see him finally recognized where he should have been. Cam Hayward, Mike Hilton, like I said, big day. Joe Hayden, hey, even when you're doing very well, you could see how he was still an impact player and could still get beat by an all-world player like a DeAndre Hopkins. Who else defensively am I thinking about? TJ Watt was harassing people, but Dupree, I thought, had a pretty solid game.
Solid game.
Yes, very solid. But the Steelers, that inside linebacker spot is definitely, Shazier is sorely missed. We saw Alfred Blue get 108 yards. Lamar Miller got 55 on the ground. Texans ran the ball 28 times to passing at 17. Not a surprise there. But, man, did the Steelers they put the clamps down on TJ Yates, man. He was just 7 of 16, 83 yards. He had the lucky touchdown. If he doesn't have DeAndre Hopkins, that's not going anywhere. 54.9 rating. And actually, most of those 83 yards, most of that was all DeAndre Hopkins on that one drive, in which it just seemed like the officials were just like, they're losing. We feel kind of bad for them, so we're just going to let this go.
Yeah, it's, the big negative, the one negative to take away from this game, as you said, is the rushing defense, and that is problematic, and it in large part is due to having issues inside with the linebackers on the inside. I thought Vince Williams played a decent game, but it's not just them. Javon Hargrave, Stephon Tuitt, and Cam Hayward all had instances where they got washed out of the play by an offensive line that is not tremendous. And part of that has to do with the actual pressure that they're getting on, because we have to remember this is a defensive line that is not playing the way old Steelers defensive lines played, which is absorb blocks, tie up the offensive line, and let the linebackers make plays. They are not exactly doing that. And Javon Hargrave, especially because of his strength and quickness, will get off of an offensive lineman quickly to make pressure. The problem with that is if it's a run, that offensive lineman is then free to move into the secondary or into the backcourt there, so to speak, and engage a linebacker. And without Shazier and his speed there, it's just a glaring problem. And I think they compensate for it very well in the passing game. And there was a stat that somebody tweeted at either yesterday or today that it talks about the difference with Joe Hayden and without him. With Joe Hayden, the Steelers have allowed 15.4 points per game. That would be number one in the NFL. Without Joe Hayden, that was with Joe Hayden. Without Joe Hayden, they'd be 30th, 26 points per game.
Wow.
So it's a huge difference having Joe Hayden there. That was obviously demonstrated yesterday. And they can deal with the run issues because other than Jacksonville, there's not a run team that scares you in the playoffs. I mean, the Ravens have run the ball well. Kansas City has run the ball well. Even the Patriots can sometimes run the ball well, and they will all gash us with certain times with the run, but they won't be able to throw as well. And I think having Joe Hayden back will allow us to pay more attention to Gronkowski. That will help that coverage. I think we're in really good shape, and having the bye week is just a huge benefit. But they do need to figure out, and they're going to have time to do it, which is good, because getting the bye will give them some extra time to deal with this. But they're going to have to find out how to mitigate the issues that they're having in run defense.
Something the defense hasn't done all year is score a touchdown. No defensive scoring with the Steelers, which is kind of surprising. We finally saw them get the ball away, get some forced fumbles, get a pick. The pick wasn't the biggest deal since it was already fourth down and it was going to be an incomplete pass regardless and a turnover on downs, but you still like to see it. Offensively, though, the Steelers – everybody thinking, who's going to replace Antonio Brown, et cetera, et cetera. But if you really look how many plays that the Steelers ran, not a whole lot. The defense set them up very nicely with good field position. Bell only carried the ball 14 times, which is what you want now. You want him to get a little bit of rest. He still had 69 yards and a touchdown, a very awesome touchdown, by the way. Ben was sharp, 20 of 29, 226 yards, 2 TDs, 115 rating. He spread the ball around. He got Juju involved a little later. We saw Martavis Bryant right out the gate at the long pass, the 36-yard pass. He tiptoes. It's starting to look like the old Martavis Bryant that we're used to. Even in end around, we saw Juju run one and it didn't work, and then immediately they came back with it with Bryant and it did work. And like I said, I've been bullish on Vance McDonald. I was very happy to see him involved early. He got a ton of playing time. I'll pull it up here in a second. He was utilized quite a bit, often and early, and I think he's an X factor that will also help for a postseason run. In fact, McDonald, I want to say just about my gut that he outsnapped Jesse. He almost did. Jesse had 32 snaps and McDonald had 29. So that was almost the even split there. My guy, though, I'd be remiss to not mention the other GOAT. Oh, I love trolling people, Brian. You know where this is going. Landry Jones got in the game, buddy. That's what I wanted to see. All kidding aside, however you feel about Landry Jones, I think he's awesome. He's a guy. He could walk on water. He could do no harm, in my opinion. I'm going all in on this. No, seriously. I wanted Ben off the field. Number one, they needed to correct his left shoulder pad with the backwards Nike swoosh. It was driving my OCD crazy the entire night. The first thing I saw was I thought I was looking looking in a mirror, or somebody had a lens or something, like the selfie camera or something. I saw it. The very first thing he's talking with Mike Tomlin on the sidelines when they're warming up. I'm like, what is that? His swoosh is wrong, or his camera's wrong. Something's broken here. This is everything's out of balance. This is going to screw up the game now. It's going to come down to a Boswell field goal. But all kidding aside, I wanted to see Landry Jones in because I wanted the Steelers to handle this game, and that's what they did. We saw Stephen Ridley get a ton. He had 9 carries in the game. He didn't look too shabby. Getting those guys in the mix, very important, not only for depth purposes, but to rest some of these starters because it's a long season. These guys have bumps and bruises. Now they have secured a bye week. Next week's game may or may not mean anything. I'm sure they're going to be looking at the scoreboard. If that Jets score gets out of hand, we may see the GOAT Landry Jones once again. Goatry Jones, as I call him sometimes in our circles. But that's where I felt with that. I got one more guy that deserves some attention. Special teams player, long snapper. You don't even notice he's there. Cameron Canaday, as I felt, had a very good season. They drafted Colin Holba. That didn't work out with the 6th round. This guy comes in undrafted, wins the job, which was Greg Warren's for an eternity, and they have not missed a beat. So whether it's Jordan Berry punting the ball or all those Chris Boswell field goals that we're used to seeing and didn't see much of yesterday, Cameron Canaday deserves a nod too, just because nobody ever says anything about him. So there you have it, Brian. What are your thoughts? Don't trash Landry Jones, or I'll just edit it out of the show.
I will just say this: 0 for 1.
Hey, they did. You know what? They should have. What they needed was a play action pass on second down. I get it. You're running the clock out. There's 6 minutes left. You just want to manage and not turn the ball over, and I'm cool with it. I mean, it is what it is. So,
I don't hate Landry. I don't love Landry. I had to, as soon as he came in, I had to tweet out, somebody calm Joe down. Landry Jones sighting is existing.
It was a Christmas present, and I had my Landry Jones jersey on, and my rationale for that was, one, I felt he would get a chance to play. Second, it is a white road jersey, so I have this what's the word I'm looking for? Superstition, yes, of wearing the same color, and then I also like to have somebody that's actually playing. So I didn't want to wear Antonio Brown and Troy Polamalu, and as I joked with my cousin, all 3 of my road white away jerseys are goats. So you have Polamalu, you have AB, and you have Landry Jones, of course. So
of course,
I had to rationalize it in my head. Plus, you know what? I was just being a troll to anyone who saw it, because we made a few trips yesterday. I had to wear my Steelers gear and represent. I usually like to dress up a little bit on Christmas. So that's 2 years in a row where the NFL decided it would be a wonderful idea to make us all have to tell your mother-in-law to sit down. She's not a window. Get out of the way of the TV.
Yeah, I hope we don't play a holiday game next season. But the one that you may get your wish next week. I think that the Steelers can't rest everybody yet because they still have to try and win this Cleveland game in the hopes that somehow the Bryce Petty-led New York Jets suddenly become the Riveron defeaters and beat the Patriots in New England next week.
And the officiating
If they
crew.
don't, they don't. Yeah, and the officiating crew. As I've seen tweeted out several times, the official Patriots team photo is all officials, which is just, hey, it is what it is. As I said, that's the way it looks. That's the way it feels. That's the way it smells. So, that's the way it's going to look. But if they can manage to win that game somehow, some way, then the Steelers still have a shot at the number 1 seed, in which case, if they can put the Browns away in the first half, or if, as is probably more likely, the Patriots put the Jets away in the first half, then I think you could see Landry play at least a solid half of football, give everybody else a rest, get them off the field. I think we're still going to see a heavy dose of Stephen Ridley next week. I was pleased with how he looked considering the limited amount of time he's had in the building with them. I was really actually surprised that he managed to make enough of an impression on Tomlin that he got the nod over Fitz, to get those extra snaps. But then again, maybe it's just getting him into the groove, and that's part of that process. I also want to give a shout out to the owner of the hard hat, Eli Rogers. And not because of his play on, catching the ball, because that was not all that great, although he did have one catch for 6 yards. But man, did he look good on punt returns. And considering, the way the season started with him on punt returns, that was good to see, because it would be really nice to have a solid, dependable punt returner so that AB can be spared that additional wear and tear, especially as he gets a little older and further into his career. And it keeps Eli home. You know what I mean? It gives them another reason to keep him around, because I think he's really lost the slot job at this point to Juju or whoever else is going. So that was great to see. I like to see his enthusiasm there. It was a good, solid win. And the offense, as many people have been saying, the offense just looks like they are clicking. And I know everyone wants this offense to run through Le'Veon Bell. It doesn't. It just doesn't. This is Ben's offense. This is Ben's team. And they're going to go the way Ben goes. They can feed Le'Veon, but teams are going to try and take him away. And you're not going to get 30-plus points a game if Ben's not playing well. Because as good as Le'Veon is, if everybody's stacking the box and trying to hold him up and he's getting 2, 3, 4-yard runs, you're going to win games 18 to something or 20 to something. And people are going to scream and holler and have a fit that they're not, scoring 30-plus points a game. It's on Ben. And it was great to see the chemistry building with Vance McDonald. It was great to see the continued chemistry with Juju. I mean, there was one drive for a touchdown that was just Ben and Juju.
Yeah,
the whole way down. Seemed like the whole way down the field. And Martavis, let's give some credit to MB for really upping his game the last few weeks and doing a solid job. Catching some balls. Yeah, he pulled a MB type move and jumped when he didn't need to on a different pass. But that was still a tough catch. So I like the way the group is rounding out. When you put Antonio Brown back in this group, man, this is just a scary offense. Finally, it looks like the offense we've all been looking for all year long.
Hey, we said September football is still training camp, and that's the way it is. And if it wasn't for a setback with the Chicago Bears with an overtime loss where they should have played better, and I do believe there was a questionable officiating thing with that, with Vance McDonald stripping the ball on the blocked kick type thing. But those 3 points, however you want to mix it in there, man, the Steelers should have this 1 seed. So, but unfortunately, they got screwed out of the call with Jesse James. I'm not going to sugarcoat that one at all. You got to look at the Patriots. Like you said, I see the same thing happening. Stephen Ridley, probably some more carries because they don't know who he is. They know who Fitz Toussaint is. So, New York Jets and New England Patriots, the competitive balance, no Sunday night games on Sunday, everyone playing at the same time. We'll probably discuss this again when we get to, if we preview the Browns, because we got New Year's and whatnot with the other holiday coming, and there's really not going to be a whole lot to talk about with Cleveland. We'll try and struggle through that and get you an update here later in the week. So happy holidays, everyone. We don't know Bryce Petty and the Jets. Jets have a good defense. Do they have a solid enough offense? I don't know, but that's Safarian Jenkins. Overturned touchdown was the difference in a 7-point loss with the Jets lost to the Patriots earlier in the year. So you could thank the senior VP of officiating for that one as well. Just so many factors in this one. Like I said, man, Steelers control their own destiny here. It's looking good. Everyone's getting healthy at a time when they need to be. Only one significant loss with Shazier. We don't think the Antonio Brown thing is going to linger on beyond. They should be playing. They'll be playing a divisional round now, so they don't have to play that first week. So Antonio Brown gets the rest. An additional 2+ weeks here before getting back into the mix and looking like a very dangerous offense with a capable defense now with Joe Hayden and Mike Hilton. We might need the killer H's now. Hayden, Hilton. Do we have anybody else? Hargrave. I'm getting there.
Yeah, we the honorable H's. I don't know.
Nah.
Killer B's and the horrific H's. I don't know. We'll have to come up with something.
No, horrific sounds bad. That sounds sounds like Ross Cockrell and Antoine
hardcore.
Blake
The hardcore H's.
There you go. We're getting there. We'll get something. Anyways, I digress, folks. We're up against it. We've been up against it. So once again, happy holidays to you and yours, and thanks for listening. My name's Joe. His name is Brian, I do believe.
Brian.
I didn't forget, buddy. Happy holidays to you too, and thanks for joining me.
Absolutely. Same to you. Same to everybody out there. Celebrate Festivus by heading to New York with your Festivus pole.
All right, folks. Be safe, be good, and we will catch you later this week or in 2018.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.